Hello, Slicey Dicers. This is Brian with another knife review for you. Today, we have the WE 715 Ignition. Very, very cool knife from WE, and I think a great step forward for WE. This is not one of their more expensive models. They have stuff, $500. This is 125, $126, 125.80 right now on Blade HQ, if you want to be very precise. And it's, I think, an effort of them to an example of their efforts lately. It's not just this knife, some other ones they make, of going a bit more mainstream. This doesn't have a lot of the crazy design elements that you see on a lot of Wii's. Like the eschaton is just wow. I mean, it looks cool as hell, don't get me wrong, but I had a 617 and it had the harpoon blade on it, and it was just like a lot of stuff that they've done in the past that didn't excite me. I'm a knife user. I don't have a lot of things just to look at. I have a few, but not a lot. And the Wii designs didn't really appeal to me, but knives like this Ignition especially, also they have some new ones like the 703, the 706, the Thrakes. They seem to be trying to go a bit more mainstream, and I think that's what they should be doing. We'll talk about that more in the conclusions, but there is a space in the market right now that we and some of the other Chinese companies, if they just toned it down a bit, they could swoop into, I think, and really make some waves. So this is a toned down, more normal Wii, is basically how I would describe it. You have titanium frame lock on one side, G10 slab on the other, no liner on the other side, and it does not need it. I mean, I can't even move it. I don't have the strongest hands in the world. Maybe somebody can, but I can't move it a bit. So very good job there. I really, you don't need especially if you have titanium on one side, you don't need a liner on the other. It's completely fine. But yeah, aesthetically, a fairly normal looking design from Wii. It definitely looks like a Wii. They didn't completely sell out and just make something bland and boring. It still definitely looks at a glance, you know it's a Wii. But yeah, it's got this stylized hole a little bit, but it comes in other colors. It's not just in this blue. You get blue, orange, or black, and you can get it with this nice subtle stone-washed blade, or you can get it, if you want to be more Wii-like, you can get it with a black DLC, where this is stonewash. You see it's a two-tone machine surface, and then stonewash and others. Oh, the camera's picking that up. Where it's stonewash, you can get it in black DLC. That looks a bit more Wii to me, which is not an insult. It's just not my thing. I much prefer this, infinitely prefer this stone-washed look. So, yeah, pretty cool looking knife. I really like it. Let's get into the specs before I get too far into here. We have an overall length of just under 8 inches, about 7.9 inches. Blade length of just under 3.4 inches. Pretty good amount of cutting edge. It does have a sharpening choil on there. There's a bit of a recurve there, so it's not a perfect sharpening choil, but it's better than none at all. And handle length of 4.5 inches. You have an overall blade thickness of 0.12 inches and a handle width of 0.48 inches, so just barely under 5 inches. But one of the party pieces of this blade is you're looking at 3.4 inch blade and a weight of, according to my scales, 3.11 ounces. So very, very light, which is awesome for a blade this size. And other dimensions, it's, as you can see, these are all half-inch squares. So we're looking at, let's flip it over here where I can see it just a little bit better. You're looking at a maximum height without the flipper tab of inch and a quarter. Very, very thin, or very short height in the pocket. So that's very nice. Now, let's do some size comparisons quick here. Again, I think this is a knife that's going to be compared to a lot more stuff. We'll talk about that we'll talk about it now, I guess, as I'm doing size comparisons. So, in the past, I don't think a lot of Spyderco or Benchmade customers would consider Wii because they were just really stylized, This isn't nearly as stylized. So now I think this is a knife that maybe some of these guys would think about. I know I would now. When I start shopping for a new Spyderco or a new Benchmade or something like that, I would consider Wii now because they make some stuff that's not so crazy. This one and the other ones I mentioned earlier, for example, so we'll compare it to your Paramilitary 2. Yeah, it's a bit flashier than a paramilitary 2, but not much. Because some guys just don't want super flashy, and that's mostly what we made. Now they're making stuff that's a bit more mainstream. So, it doesn't look any more offensive or less offensive than a paramilitary 2. And if you're getting the base PM2 with the S30V blade and the black handle, same price. And you can get this in a black handle if you want to go, the same colors. So, yeah, something to think about. Also, not much more money. You have something like your steel wheel cut jack. This is like $25 more, obviously better steel. It's M390, but I think this is a knife people will actually consider. I'm not saying it's better, but I think now it's worthy of consideration while you're looking at those. A Mannix 2, something like that. Let's compare it to your Ontario Wrap Model 1. And let's do, I have one I'm saving for last, but just for consistency's sake, your Chris Reeve Large Sabenza. A little shorter than that. And only because, like I think Zelric in his review mentioned this too, I've seen people say on forums that Wee's just copying Spyderco. There is nothing about this knife that is like a Spyderco other than the fact that there's a hole in the blade. That's it. And it's not even remotely shaped hole. It's not even the same shape as the bird hole. This, if you are saying this is a Spyderco copy, I'm sorry, you're an idiot. That's all I'll say about that, and we'll move on. Now, let's talk about the quality. I think the quality is very much worth the $125 they charge for it. Wee does a great job with quality. I don't think anybody's ever complained about their quality control. There are no sharp edges on this knife other than the blade, and that's what you want. Everything is nicely chamfered. Everything feels very good, and it's just solid. It just feels like a very solid knife. The nice titanium machine pocket clip that's very solidly bolted in there and goes on both sides. We'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, it's a very well-made knife. Absolutely. I mean, the little, I almost called it a Spidey hole. I almost reinforced the insecure people that say it's a Spyderco copy. But, the hole in the deployment hole in the blade, also nice and chamfered out. Maybe a bit too much. We'll get to that in the deployment. But yeah, very well done. Everything feels very solid. Blade centering is perfect. No, this thing opens like a bank vault. I hate to keep using that word, but this is not moving anywhere. Lockup is very, very good. Look at what, 50% lockup there. Just excellent. The quality is just great on this thing. For $125, it is really good. The blade, you're looking at VG10 steel, which is not exciting, but Wee is hardening it a bit more than other people. And I've heard nothing but good things so far about the Ignition blade. As I said, it's been out for a few months, and nobody's really been complaining yet. So I'm not going to make a big deal about the VG10. I think it's not my favorite steel, but mostly because most of my VG10 experience has been with Spyderco, and I don't like the way they heat treat their VG10. It goes dull pretty quick. I don't expect this to. I've used it a lot the last couple of days, cut through a lot of cardboard and stuff, and it's been fine. And it does cut through cardboard really well, much better than I expected. It does not look like a slicey blade, but it is a nice hollow grind. It's very thin behind the edge, and it actually hacks through some cardboard pretty darn good. It's not bad at all, and I've been doing it a lot, and it's still really sharp. I have not touched it. And this is a used knife. I did get this used. I don't know how much the guy who had it before me used it. He said not much, but yeah, it's very sharp. It was never fully sharpened. It is the factory edge, and it's really good. This is a well-used knife, and it's still really sharp. I may give it a little touch-up after I'm done with this, but if I do, I'm just going to run it on the little Lansky, I think I have it here, the little combo box thing on the ceramic rods, and I'm sure it'll be absolutely fine. So I really like the blade shape on it. And again, it has a bit of recurve. Some people are going to freak out about that. Doesn't really bother me because, like I said, I usually just touch stuff up on that Lansky box. Most of the time, I'll bust out the stones or bust out a guided system. And if you bust out a guided system, you could just get rid of this recurve pretty quick. It's the tiniest little bit of recurve here at the back. It's not a big deal. But for the kind of sharpening that I do, I'm going to keep it. It's fine. I don't mind it being there. Now, let's talk about the ergonomics. Also, pretty good. I don't mind it at all. It is a thin handle, short handle, I guess. I keep interchanging those things. It is a almost half an inch thick handle. It's about what you'd expect. It's a fairly short handle, so if you have really long fingers, which I do, you would think it wouldn't be that great, but it's okay. It's not bad. And there's no hot spots at all. It's very comfortable. You have a little bit of jimping on the blade here to choke up on. I will say that if there's one thing I wish they hadn't rounded off as much, I wish they'd have left this jimping a bit sharper. This jimping isn't so smooth as to be called ornamental, but it's not far off. I mean, yeah, you do get some purchase on there, but I wish it was a bit more aggressive on the jimping. And maybe even put some here on the frame lock, because this G10 is not very grippy. It's not the grippiest knife in the world, but you're locked in. You have that flipper tab to hold you on there. It's good ergonomically. It's very good. I wouldn't call it great, but it's very good. And if you have smaller hands, you're really going to like it. If you have smaller hands, you might even like it better than, like a PM2. If you've got really small hands, this may be an option you would look at instead of a PM2. About the same price. A little fancier quality, in my opinion. Maybe not as good a blade steel, but anywho, I'm starting to digress. But ergonomically, it's good. Carry, it's awesome. It's very light. As I said, we're talking, 3 just a hair over 3 ounces. It's super light, especially for a blade this length. And again, very short height. So it's you put it in the pocket and it's a joy. And it is a flipper, which is usually like, is the flipper tab in the way? I don't even notice this one. It's such a small little flipper tab that it just works awesome. It's so good in the pocket. It very much is. It's so thin, so light. Not a deep carry pocket clip, but a very good, sturdy pocket clip. So I will forgive it. And what sticks out, especially if you're a righty, then only a little bit is sticking out. And what is sticking out is just titanium. So it's not something flashy in your way. Now, if you're a lefty, it's going to be whatever color G10 you chose that's going to be sticking out. But if you're a lefty, I don't think you'd be buying frame locks anyway. That's just me. My son's a lefty. He hates frame locks, so because they're all set up for righties. But anywho, I'm digressing again. Let's get into the deployment. That's always one of the highlights of Wii's, and same holds true for this. It is a flipper tab primarily. Runs on ball bearings, smooth as smooth can be. Really love the deployment on this. It's great. It's fun. It's fidgetable. My favorite thing about the deployment on it is when you open it, it's not going to come across on camera. It does sound a bit plasticky because of the one side is G10, but the feeling of it is just bang. That sucker is locked. Like when you it is a very confidence-inspiring flip. The detent is perfect, and when it pops out, it's just boom, and it's locked. You can really feel it, and I really like that. A lot of frame locks feel that way, but this one feels especially for a knife this light. It just feels like, all right, I'm ready to go. Let's tear some crap up. Let's go to it. That's just what it feels like. It just feels ready to go. I really do like that. It does have the deployment hole. You can spidey flick it, but it's kind of awkward, but you can. It is very rounded off, so you kind of got to catch it right and make sure you don't have your fingers on the frame lock. I may not even be able to do it here in front of I'm not gonna be able to do it with my tripod in the way. I can do it. I've been doing it the last couple of days, but I'm not going to embarrass myself. You can flick it open with the deployment hole, but it's not easy to do. So it's really primarily a flipper. It's 90% a flipper that you can use that hole on if you have to. So yeah, overall, I really like this knife. I do feel that it's one of the first knives from Wii that I would actually consider to be an alternative to Spyderco or Benchmade. If you're looking at a 940 at $170, this is 125. No, the blade steel's not as good, but the 940 is 154 cm. It's not dramatically better. I could see it being an alternative. I could see it being an alternative to a standard PM2 if Spyderco just isn't your thing and you want something a bit more stylized. I could see that. And I haven't said that about Wii before. I thought Wii's were good knives. I didn't mind people that bought them, but I just didn't think they compared very well to the mainstream guys. But, you know, now I'm starting to. But there's one huge problem I have, and it is related to the mainstreamness of this. So, Wii does sell knives with Torx screws in them now, but this, one of their more mainstream aimed models, comes with these fucking star screws, and I can't deal with it. It's such a pain in my ass to deal with this thing. So I tore it apart because I had never actually torn any of the star screw ones apart. I did it just to do that, just to say how it was. And I was gonna think, oh, I'll include a little 4-minute video of me tearing it apart. I swore so much I couldn't edit it down to make it into a thing. It does come with a tool. Wii does a very good job with their packaging, which is another thing I should have included in the quality. They do send these nice little pouches and all this stuff they got, which are great. They're very, very fuzzy, look like Rolls-Royce floor mats or something. You've got the, nice little cloth, and it does come with a tool. And the tool works. But I'm not even gonna say that. It comes on a little, it's on a little key ring. It does work fine. Here's my problem. A, that's annoying. Torx screw would be so much easier, because this is not as good a quality bit as something, like my Wii Hot Torx driver has infinitely better bits than this does. So I would prefer it to be, something at least if you're going to make me use a proprietary tool, make it out of something like this. B or C, wherever I'm on, it's awkward to use. This keyring thing on it is the only thing you've got to really get purchase on it. It's awkward to use. C, the most annoying thing is the pivot and this screw back here are both free spinning. So I tried to loosen it up on this side. The other side of that started spinning. I tried to loosen this. The logo started spinning. And I don't get two of those tools. So back here, and then up here, there is no tool for that. So my only alternative was to really hold my thumb down and do it. Did I get it done? Yes, obviously. I got the knife apart, put it back together. It's not the end of the world, but damn it, guys. You make other knives with Torx screws. Make your more mainstream models with Torx screws. If you want to put these star screws on your fancy stuff that no one's ever going to use and no one's ever going to take apart, fine. Knock yourselves out. But on the more mainstream stuff like this and the 703, the 706, the Thrakes that I mentioned earlier, they all have these star screws too. Don't do it on the mainstream models. We're gonna use these and take them apart. Stop it. Just stop it. We get it. You make cool screws. You can do it. We all know now. You can stop it. Other than that, big rant. This is a great knife. You can overcome the star screw thing. I know Wii's pretty good about it. If you do strip one out, they'll send you more. If you strip the tool out, they'll send you another one. No questions asked. But shouldn't have to go through that. I just want to be able to use my nice Torx drivers and take it apart and put it back together and not have to swear so much that my cat runs away. But other than that, it's a great knife. I do recommend it. I recommend it slightly less because of the star screws. But if you're a guy, a lot of guys who own knives like this don't ever take them apart at all. So that's not an issue for them. But anyway, hope you guys have enjoyed this. I've been Brian. Have a good one.